and also on Ishmael's body is presumably written out. The saving practices, so to speak, mission and purpose is, and he doesn't even know that he doesn't know because he just gets killed in this random way. And so that would sort of summarize that already last time. And last time also, I talked about how Ishmael got saved by a coffin on which was carved the saving practices of a culture. And just as, and also on Ishmael's body is presumably written out. The saving practices, so to speak, mission and purpose is, and he doesn't even know that he doesn't know because he just gets killed in this random way. And so that would sort of summarize that already last time. And last time also, I talked about how Ishmael got saved by a coffin on which was carved the saving practices of a culture. And just as, and also on Ishmael's body is presumably written out. The saving practices, so to speak, mission and purpose is, and he doesn't even know that he doesn't know because he just gets killed in this random way. And so that sort of summarized that already last time. And last time also, I talked about how Ishmael got saved by a coffin on which was carved the saving practices of a culture. And just as, and also on Ishmael's body is presumably written out the saving practices, so to speak, of his way of life. He's sort of a culture of his own, with a way of life, his own kind of special polytheistic way of life. I'll say more about that in a little while. But, and when I keep saying carved on his body, of course, I don't mean that really with knives, and I don't even mean written on it, tattooed. I mean really that these practices are in his body, socialized into them. And everybody has practices like that in their body. And if they didn't, they couldn't behave in a way that was intelligible to themselves and everybody else. And when they do have that, they can behave that way. That doesn't save them from the problem of the meaninglessness, the seeming meaninglessness of everything. You've got to have more details to talk about that. So anyway, that I think is sort of so as far as I can see, we've concluded what's the basic story and the basic position of the book. But there's plenty to go over. It's just that it's something so strange that it's hard to know how to sum it up and give an answer to it, but I'll do my best. So I'm going to take up with the philosophical problem I got us into at the end last time, which was I made it seem as if when anybody is open to a world, they're open to a perspective, and that they somehow that the perspectives that people are open to are incompatible with each other. And there seemed to be something wrong with that. People were objecting, how can the world have these incompatible features? And that's when I was trying to talk about what I call the rich reality, in which the reality is such that you could have an indefinitely large number of perspectives on it. And they needn't all add up, unless they are just different possible perspectives. And the world is capable of different possible perspectives, even incompatible perspectives. I'll give you a simple example in a minute. And reason that this seems impossible is we, in our culture, have been trained to think, we're sort of addicted to think, that there is some fundamental, single reality. And if those are all perspectives on that, then they can't contradict each other, because you can't have the contradictory perspectives on this one basic reality. But of course, the point is, Melville's got a kind of interesting philosophical view in which he's not accepting that there's one basic reality. All there are is perspectives. That's what Pip understands when he says, I look, we look, they look, and so forth. And then, I think, it makes sense to think that there could be contradictory perspectives. Not that any one person could hold them, but that maybe one person at different times could hold contradictory perspectives. I don't see why not. And again, but then I think you're not supposed to be able to ask that which was the right one. So let me give you the example that I gave once already, because it's how this seems sort of how I came to believe the rich reality story was, and I realize that I'm repeating myself, but it's the best, the only example that I really think is simple and clear. So you've got these moods, and moods are giving you perspectives on reality. And so you could be in a very down mood, melancholy, drizzly November of your soul, the way Ishmael is at the beginning. And in that mood, what is salient, what shows up for you, are scary, depressing things. He gets into funeral processions, he looks into coffin warehouses, and he finds everybody else so annoying that he wants to walk up and knock their hats off. That's a perspective. And some other person in the same town, on the same street in Nantucket or where, could be having a tremendously upbeat mood. Everything was full of opportunities, and they felt that they could deal with these opportunities, and they felt close to the people they were seeing, and their death didn't even enter their mind at that point. Now, so they've got an entirely different and incompatible perspective. Only the two theys I'm talking about are two different people. The problem I got us into last time was that one person at one time could be seeing two incompatible colors, or hearing two incompatible voices to talk like the whale temple, or seeing two different pictures on the doubloon. That's what I think is what got me into trouble, and that's certainly wrong. But I think the simple mood example is supposed to get you to see that it's possible that reality could have incompatible aspects, in the sense that one person can be attuned to and pick up some aspect of the situation, and another person could be attuned to and pick up a contradictory perspective or aspect of the situation. I was trying to give you a grumpy, melancholy aspect story, and at the same time, you could have in the same town, at the same time, on the same street, somebody in an upbeat mood, having an entirely different perspective of reality. That's fine. The only reason it seems like you can have such a story is if you believe that there must be one right answer to what it means, or whether this is a gloomy town or a upbeat town, or a gloomy time or an upbeat time. Once that's philosophy. That's what Ishmael is against. is against the idea that you can have any complete truth. So science can't give you complete truth about reality. Religion can't give you the truth about reality. Your own moods can't give you the truth about reality. There isn't any such thing. And then I think the Moby-Dick-Melville view will get along all right. Is it still a problem? I had a feeling it was too easy to go ahead. If we thought it was private. Good objection. I'm not convinced yet that it's devastating. It's challenging, to say the least. But it looks to me like stick with your party. And of course, it's easy if you think of moods as subjective, as Tyler says. Then one person is having a downer situation, a private downer mood, and another person is having a upbeat manic mood, and then they're just projecting these two moods on some neutral situation. That's how it would look in a traditional way of thinking about it. But if you're going to say most moods are public, when we way back to Homer, if you can remember back there, the only moods that Homer's interested in are big deal public moods, like Ares is shining and everybody's battle, Paris is there, and at least one other person, Helen, is in the same mood and is running off with him. And then you have a problem. If you have this shared, if moods can be, and most importantly are, shared, then it looks like the party is better be a happy party or a gloomy party. I don't know what to say about that. I feel that I'm being driven to say it, but I don't trust the phenomenon. That if you're gloomy enough, the happiest party you can open a gloomy aspect on it, and if you're happy enough, the gloomiest party, you can open an upbeat aspect of it. That's what I have to say, and I don't feel comfortable saying it. Go ahead. The whole of all of reality is potentially everything and could go every way. Okay. Well, that's right. If you hereby is that this is the objective sort of grounded way, there isn't any answer to that. But you don't have to go from there to this extreme. I don't know, the potentiality seems to cop out to the traditional way of looking at things. All you have to say is there are all sorts of ways that people can be in moods that take the current situation. And if you want to say, well, then those moods must have been able to pick out a potentiality of the current situation, I don't know if that adds anything. Yeah. that you're feeling gloomy, and if you were sort of saying things honestly, you would have to say, I'm feeling gloomy, and I know that this party is gloomy, and it's going to look gloomy to me. But why sort of stand outside in a kind of neutral position and say this party is potentially either a great one or a downer? There's, you don't have any sort of justification for doing it. I'm going to have a shared gloomy mood, and you're going to have a shared happy mood. That is, you're going to be, what's going to be salient to you is everything upbeat that you can see and feel in the room, and what's going to be salient to me is everything downbeat that you can see in the room. That's how it has to be. That's how it would have to be. Yes, and many more. Because there's just various ways that you can get attuned to there are enough, this is the shared reality, there are enough aspects to a room that you can manage to, you can say, well, it's going to be a great party because I'm going to meet the one person that I'm going to love and be happy with. But it's a shared party, anybody could meet this person, and I could meet other people, but it's going to be like that. There's who knows what other possibilities. Erica wants to say something? No, somebody over here wants to say something. Who, where? Okay, go ahead. Well, okay, good, I'm glad you say so. I mean, good. He represents and that's the Enlightenment and the dominant view, and very important to hear it and to realize that most of us really believe it. I mean, I'm kind of straining with all my might to try to think and act as if I don't believe it. But Descartes, so starting with Homer, the emphasis was all on the shared moods. They were the gods that were shining, and another god was the one shining, and different people could pick out sometimes different gods that were equally shining on the situation. But it was all public. Remember, there was no inner in Homer. I talked about that. Homer says that Odysseus had a trick that he could cry inwardly, but it was some really weirdo thing Odysseus could do, and nobody else could do it. You know, Odysseus was extremely clever. And then remember I said in a time of Augustine, St. Jerome could read the Bible to himself, and people came from far around just to watch this amazing thing. The meaning went into his head, and his tongue didn't move. Those kinds of experiences certainly happen. And then Descartes comes along and pulls this amazing switch on the whole culture. The most, as I say in this course, and I believe, the biggest change of world since Jesus. I mean, that is a really reconfiguration switch in which what was sort of the leftover kind of garbage that was in people's heads, private itches and feelings, and odd moods that they get something they shouldn't have eaten or something. And there are such things. But Descartes managed to take this marvelous stuff and make it taste. That this shows consider this the problem you have to go on that's Descartes and follows. That's everything. All these right now, each of us are equal. People didn't believe that before. And now there's a whole other movement to try to break out of this Cartesian view and rediscover the phenomenon of shared moods. That's why I talk about parties. I could talk about baseball games when everybody shows up and shares a brilliant play that's been made, or concerts when everybody starts swaying around together to the music. And it looks like there are both private-ish experiences and shared public ones. And then the pre-modern philosophers and now the post-modern philosophers are looking at the social moods, because they do look like they're the important ones. The other ones are sort of fleeting, and they don't make much difference to anybody but you, whereas the mood of the, say, Martin Luther King rally, that's a big deal. That's a public mood, and it could change the way people are treated. It could change what kind of president you can have, and so forth. Okay, what else can I say about it? I'm trying to, what you have to do is work out in detail how Descartes got us into this way of thinking about things, and take it apart and reconstruct the way it was thought, or the way people experienced it before Descartes. I can't say more. I mean, important philosopher. I mean, if anybody is listening out there in the podcast world or in here either, if you care about this, you can take a course in Wittgenstein. Wittgenstein devoted his life after a certain point and all of his mental powers, which was terrific, to trying to deconstruct this Descartes picture. And then there was a philosopher in England, Ryle, who said that he had to get rid of the ghost in the machine. That was his idea, that the Cartesian idea that there's a thinking thing inside. So there have been philosophers who sort of went threw their lives on the line to get out of this Cartesian view. Go ahead, but I mean, I can't expect you to be talked out of it without lots of struggle. Go ahead. Yes and no. I mean, it's fun to read. This is kind of like a review. I would say, yes, people had control. And who were those people? The suitors. The interesting thing is that the suitors are not receptive to the gods and don't feel that they are they have to be open and show gratitude and accept the moods that, like Aphrodite or Ares, opens up for the crowd. So people have free will in that sense, that they can control to some extent anyway what they're feeling and so forth. It's just that from Homer's point of view, those are bad people. They're going to come to a bad end. They are not appreciative, so to speak, of what the human beings are capable of, namely being open to the gods and thereby getting very strong, meaningful moods. So, you want to say something? Go ahead. Yeah, you could. In fact, that's what you would say. You guys could get together if you have this kind of Cartesian picture. If moods can only be in people's minds, I mean, the whole concept of something being in your mind is so interesting. I mean, you can get yourself convinced that right now you're having an experience in your mind of me talking, and it sort of helps you to believe this, to think, well, what else is going on in the brain? And the brain is in the head, and the mind must be in there too some way. And then try all of a sudden you can start to find, and you have this amazing human capacity of being open to what's going on in the room. And right now you're open to me talking, and I'm up here talking. I'm not in everyone's head, and you all happen to share this picture of me in your mind. But that's what you get. He's right. If you're a Cartesian, and there are still, I don't know, are there still Cartesians? I suppose. Husserl's the last one I know. What's that? I see. There are underground Cartesians. In fact, maybe Searle is an underground Cartesian. Yes. So you could a deep. I mean, Descartes is deep. You don't get to be a super reconfigurer if you're not a brilliant, deep philosopher. So you can't just dismiss somebody by calling them Cartesian. So that's what somebody like Ryle would do. But you're right, but we can't do that in here. This isn't a course in history of modern, but you're luring me into this. Yes. Yeah, and presumably, let me just add something, and they don't see each other, because what's salient to the gloomy people is only the other gloomy people, and what's salient to the happy people, or maybe they do see each other, but only as annoying or something like that. What I want to say is there are people in one corner who are responsive to all of the downer things, and that's what's salient for them. And there are people in another corner who are responsible for all the upbeat things, and that's what's salient to them. And that's, both of them see it as total. They don't see that it's divided into corners in which, the corners are as bad as in their mind. There is one big shared thing in the party, only different people see this big shared thing under a different perspective. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't know what it means to say they're projecting a mood. There's some little mood in here which they project out of the world, sort of a dark kind of groove that comes out of their minds and spreads over everything. It's harder to understand the projective. That's why I think science when I read Heidegger. There are people who can attune themselves to the gloominess of the heart, and that's rich reality. There's enough for both of them. There's the is in there. Yes, if you start that, then you're in trouble. Or at least from this point of view, you're in trouble. You shouldn't be thinking that the party is. That's what you should just say, you don't want to say I'm experiencing that party. You don't want to say it is. Sort of objectively, no matter what everybody feels about it, this is how it is. What do you say? Party is, I think, showing up for me in the group, something like that. I think that is the right thing to say. If you say is, you're in trouble, I think. And, okay, somebody over here. I mean, this is just turning into an introduction to the history of modern. I don't know what to do. Go ahead, but it's important. I would, of course, turn it around and say that when the previous experience has made them sensitive to the annoying aspects of the situation. There are always annoying aspects in every situation. The reality is very rich, and so projecting doesn't mean anything. Okay, then they're attuned. Yeah, they're going to be attuned to the grumpy side of things. Okay, and that's right. Well, that's fine. Yeah, that's what I think happens. I mean, the people get to be attuned or sensitive to these aspects. Remember, we're doing all this just to try to understand Melville, but we got to be careful because what we're trying to understand is what Pip sees with the gloom, for instance. I just don't want to totally disappear into the history of Cartesian philosophy. I mean, what Pip thinks is that everybody who thinks that there is one way reality is and that they're seeing it has missed the fact that the reality is perspectival through and through, and that people see it from different perspectives. Remember, we don't want to say it's very tricky. There's another bad guy, or for this argument at least, waiting in the wings. Well, reality is just chaos, and people project, again, all these interpretations on it. The doubloon ought to block that, because the balloon isn't chaos. It's all kinds of complicated features, and that's what each one of them sees an entirely different doubloon on the basis of their openness, which is colored, so to speak, or sensitized by what, as he might say, where they've been and what they've just gone through and so forth. But it doesn't, if you think about the doubloon story and take it as it's given to you by Melville, then you see that there is plenty to see in the doubloon when you hear that whole picture. And it really is there. But that doesn't mean that the doubloon really is, period is, I mean, in that strong sense, a story about three peaks and a story about Ahab. That's just one of the ways you can get sensitized and so forth. I think I'm going around in loops now, or at least repetitions, so I'm going to go on. I've done the first sentence. And remember, I'm trying to help help you get a grip on this very complicated book. In a second, all I want to say this rich reality story is told, I just want to remind you again and again, it's got the rainbow story, in which people are tuned to various colors, but only one at a time. And if you try to add them all up and say, well, what's the real color? You get blankness. So there's the rainbow story, there's the doubloon story, which I was just telling. Don't forget this wonderful story about the whale skeleton temple, where it's all a lot of different voices. And if you're too close, you can't make out anything, but if you get the right distance, one voice will be sort of resonate, and pick it out. That's exactly that same story again. There are all these voices saying all these different things, but you can't hear them except by getting tuned to one of them, some wavelength where one of them is. Now, a hand. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. List all the ways this can be picked up. The reality is indefinitely open to being attuned to in various ways, but you can't attune to it in any way. Except for the voices you're singing, which are operating Greek, whale temple, and so forth. So it's, again, you've got to just try to think of it with not the usual philosophical mind, projection, constant reality. Reality is what is constantly the case, and then different people see different aspects, but it's just a different and hard to get used to story, that reality is indefinitely rich. We are capable of being open in an indefinite amount of ways. That's the best I can do. Okay, I'm going, okay. Why not? Where are we? Okay. Good, good. I probably... Well... It's interesting what you're saying. I just don't think we have to go look at the text. It just seems to me he doesn't ever say anything like that. Like he doesn't say... Well, maybe. I mean, I'll take another view because neither one of us, I think, I think, and I think what I thought you were going to point out, and you sort of did without stressing it, I was misspeaking because I was making it sound too much like that you somehow something like give a meaning if you're looking at the video. I want to say, no, that you're supposed to think about it as the doubloon draws you into it and draws you to see certain saliences. When Ahab looks at the triple peaks, he sees power. And when Starbuck looks at them, he sees the Trinity. But that's because, given the way his life, Starbuck, has been Christian, the coin just draws his attention to the triples, and it will draw his attention to all sorts of triples. And somebody else, given the way he's been raised as maybe a student of volcanoes, will get interested in the three volcanoes will grab his attention too. And I think we're supposed to think that it's all very much a philosophy of receptivity. That it's either the point itself, or if it's a question of, it could be a question of what's shining on the coin. If Aphrodite is shining on the coin, any sort of erotic elements in it will light up and grab you, and so forth. But I mean, my sort of assumption is, and it is an assumption, but you've got to check it out. Homer is totally into this receptivity, responsiveness story. And it's just that we have a lot of trouble seeing it and believing it, because a long tradition has washed it out. Descartes did it in. But what? I'm trying to think what the response is. You see, on all levels, there's kind of responsiveness. You've heard me say, the Greeks seems to say when they sit down to eat that their arms went out to the food ready before them. It isn't as if they sort of actively reached for the food. It isn't as if either they just had a kind of spontaneous, kind of mechanical thing, like when you hit somebody on the knee, their leg goes up, so that when they're hungry and they sit down, their arm goes out. It's some middle thing, but it's a middle thing that is basically on the side of the attraction, where their arms go out to the food in front of them. They're drawn into eating. But that look and see. But it's nice to think. I mean, why I'm so interested in this. I mean, it's interesting to think what a world would be like, a Homeric world would be like in which all sorts of wonderful, mysterious, frightening stuff was coming at you from all over, calling you to deal with it. And that's how it was at that point. That's what Heidegger says, my guy, that's why the world was full of wonder, and it was overwhelming. Now you have to add a funny thing. And therefore, these people did philosophy in order to sort of calm it down and get it under control. I can't remember the phrase. No, I can't. But anyway, that's a picture. That's the Homer picture, I think. And I think it's important to try to stress it because it's been covered up by 2,000 years of people saying Homer just didn't understand the role of free will, the role of the mind, the power of the inner, and so forth. I think Homer was very good at understanding something else. Go ahead. Oh, absolutely. But those are bad guys and they come to a bad end all of that. That's right. That's right. Daft from weakness. Well, I don't know. I mean, he certainly says you can be receptive and you can force yourself onto the world, but I don't think they're equal. I think the receptive people, of course, if you go completely receptive, you're right, then Hitler's lost his mind. But he's going to join the angels in the end. I mean, it's clear that he's on the right side. I think there are two sides of it. I mean, for better or for worse, there's the receptive and there's the power people. And from Homer, where the suitors were the power people, and they were all in the wrong. And then there's Kant in the middle of it and Descartes, who thinks the main thing is to be autonomous. And of course, Dante thinks that being autonomous is exactly what the sinners all have, and that's the wall that they try to keep God and they keep receptivity out. So there's always the possibility of receptivity, and I don't know how one makes the argument. I have no idea that the receptive people are on the right track and the willful, strong people are on the wrong track. I don't know how he said this. What I would say, he's drawn into it, and he's just as strongly drawn into it as Ahab is controlling it. But now we have to sort of try to find why I think that the drawing story is what Homer's really sensitive to, and you think not. say, yes, but that's supposed to be an example of how we've been corrupted by the Descartes scientific worldview that he would try to do that. So when he's in his better state, he's trying to compose. There he's trying to write the dimensions on his body. In other cases, sometimes he's trying to write a poem on his body. And I think that's what he should be doing. And the scientifically is what he can't help doing. Oh, well, I don't even know if that's right. He can do it, but it will not get him anywhere. Okay, the cytology chapter you all subjected to. I didn't want to tell you not to read it because if it is the great American novel, you should skip it. That it is true that the whole point of the cytology chapter is it doesn't add up to nothing else. And in the end, they can't even tell whether the whale is a fish. But you have to read it to find that, to hear Melville saying that. Somebody over here is saying something. No? Okay, let's get past the first sentence of my outline. I don't know, they're all going to seem maybe funny. I'm just going to read them because maybe we covered them. There are many colors, perspectives, voices, etc. Each color is incompatible with the others. You can never see more than one color, one perspective at a time. You can only see a rainbow if you give up the idea that all the colors are true at once. Then you get whiteness, dumb blankness. No perspective is the right one. The right one, underlying. They're all, I'm not sure whether they're all equally okay, but for this discussion, I've been assuming and so that's Melville's view. Now comes, I was going to talk about really hard, interesting philosophical things for a little while. If you don't understand anything I say for the next 15 minutes, don't feel bad about it. Take Heidegger course later. But there is a structure here which is so interesting to me because Melville's got these ideas which didn't get written up by a philosopher until Heidegger in the 30s, 40s, 40s, and she was writing this. Let's try. I like to think I can explain these weird things so that people who are not professional philosophers can understand. So let me give it a try. So the one thing, the color that we are seeing something from goes into the background, goes into the illumination, and we don't see it. We see in terms of it, or it withdraws to talk like it. And it's on the basis of it. You go back and that, and this light hasn't come. I mean, if you look at it from outside on a snowy day, it would look yellow here, bluish out there. But if you walk out into the snow, the bluish would disappear and everything would just look normal. And if you come in here, the yellowness disappears and everything looks normal. It's just, I don't know if Melville is talking about that when he talks about whiteness or not. I don't have a worked out view about it. We almost always do. I wouldn't have thought that this way that whatever color all you're absorbed in, whatever sound you're absorbed in goes into the background. I wouldn't be sure that it does. If you're listening to some voice, you don't, in the temple, whale temple thing, I'm not sure it goes into the background. And then Sean thinks that that's what Melville means by whiteness. That whiteness is that the color becomes invisible when it's the color of the whole illumination. And I don't think that's what whiteness and dumb whiteness will mean. Sean is going to be listening to this, so I for him to respond to. But now there's something more interesting and important going on. anyway, than this question of whiteness. And that's this business about weaving. This is a weaver God. And we talk about that. And I think weaving is the basic way to talk about reality. Homeric Greek understood that. So what's the next question is that not only is the color gone back, but something much more deep and interesting and important is always here, so to speak, and in the back. And that's your understanding of being, the style of the whole way you understand the world. Like that there are a lot of minds around with lots going on inside of them, or there's a lot of stuff in the world all trying to grab your attention, and so forth. Those are very different styles. You get them from being raised in different cultures. And these different styles are what presumably the weaver God is weaving. In different cultures, in each different culture, there is a background understanding, a style, like now in our technological culture, without thinking about it, because it's built into us, that's always in there in our bodies, and we were raised that way. We tend to think that we ought to be able to control everything. We ought to be able to, and this is an important thing, sort of de-skill everything so that the GPS can tell us how to get around and we don't need to know how to navigate anymore. We just have to turn right when it tells us and turn left when it tells us. Microwaves will enable us to cook meals. We don't have to really know how to be a cook anymore. So there's something taking over our whole culture. It's in the background. Heidegger calls it the technological understanding of being. Melville certainly worries about it. He calls it science, and he sees it everywhere. And in funny ways, when he talks about this frigate Earth, I mentioned that, he may be the first person to think that we now understand the Earth as a something floating around in space. And moreover, I didn't say this clearly last time, if it's a frigate Earth, it means that it's like a spaceship. The Earth is like a spaceship. It's something out in space that we control, or we, in principle, could control. Everything is something that we can get more and more control of. So anyway, so Melville has this sense that there are these various styles of the culture, and we're in a very dangerous style because science is taking over, and it's invisible, it's in the background all the time, controlling what we pay attention to, what we try to bring about in our behavior and in our lives, and so forth. And that's, and the weaver God is the one who organizes everything in these various ways. Now that's important because it's a step beyond Moby Dick, in something that Melville, it's not a step beyond Moby Dick. It's something Melville senses, but it's good. But it's, I'll scratch on saying that way. I'll say it another way. It's interesting that at the time of Homer, Zeus was the leader, and he was presumably the one who, would take the place of the weaver God, except he doesn't, because it's hard to explain. The weaver God that Melville understands or senses gives us different styles in different cultures. Lots of different styles in different cultures. Melville realizes that, I think, or if he doesn't, we do now, that whatever, something that gives organization and meaning to our culture and our lives is going on. And it's the practices. Remember I talked about the practices. It's the way people behave, the way people talk, what they look at, what they care about. All of that is what is in the background. And now, so Melville's got something more fundamental than Zeus. That is, because Zeus is not the weaver god. Zeus is the father of the pantheon, which is the Greek gods, and they have a style. And there's no doubt that the weaver god wove that style too, and Zeus is part of that style. So there are two levels that Melville thinks about in this deep philosophical way. That behind everything that's happening, there's our particular style, whether it be everything welling up with wonder and us as gratitude, which is the Homer style, or everything being brought out at its best, which is the Aeschylus style, or everything being made so that we don't have to have any skills anymore, which is the scientific or technological would be better, the technological style. All of that, all of those different styles are possible. And Zeus isn't producing them. Well, what is producing them? In Homer you get as far as Zeus. There's one style and there's a one family of gods, and Zeus is the one who controls it. But if you believe in Melville, there's something behind that, the weaver god. And the weaver god is the various ways that practices work to gather different styles. And that's what you get every once in a while when you get to the very bottom of things, like the bottom of the ocean. You see what Pip sees, the weaver god. He sees God's foot upon the treadle and so forth. So Melville's got a meta view, namely that behind our ordinary experience, there's already something in the background, and that's Zeus. And then behind all the styles, all the cultures, there is something in the background, and that's the fact that the practices gather in some specific way to produce some specific style. Okay, and I'm going to just, so let's see. Yeah, we got time. So in Homer, there's a family resemblance. All the gods, all the moods have a similar style. And Zeus protects those who go from world to world, but they're all worlds with a similar style. So there's something more extreme than that, and that is that the I'm trying to explain